Hi there. Today I bring you a piece from ancient China, the Kang Hou Gui. If you ever walk into Gallery 33 of the British Museum, you'll see crowds drifting past treasures from ancient Egypt, Greece, and Mesopotamia. But on the east side of the room, there's one object almost everyone overlooks, a small bronze vessel sitting quietly in a climate-controlled case. It doesn't look like much at first glance, but this is the Kang Hou Gui, a ritual bronze from China. That's Western Zhou dynasty, over 3,000 years old. Its dark, weathered surface and simple shape wouldn't catch most people's eye. But inside this vessel is a secret. Cast into its belly are 24 ancient Chinese characters, a message that once shook the foundations of the early Zhou dynasty. These characters record the rebellion of the three overseers, a political crisis that nearly tore the young state apart. They've survived untouched for millennia, silently waiting for someone to read them. And what do they tell us? They reveal how an official named Mo Yi helped the Zhou court survive that civil war, and how he was rewarded with a noble title, Kang Hou. It's a tiny inscription, but it captures an entire moment of turmoil in early Chinese history, condensed into just a few inches of bronze. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. After surviving 3,000 years, this national treasure disappeared during the chaos of modern China. War, political upheaval, and looting pushed it far from home. Eventually, it crossed the ocean and ended up right here in London, sitting quietly in a foreign display case in exile with its story sealed inside, whispering about the land it came from and the long, unpredictable journey of history. History sometimes turns on the smallest accidents. In 1931, the central plains of China were already in chaos, political unrest on the ground. And that summer, devastating floods sweeping across northern Honan. In the village of Xin, in Jun County, a group of villagers were digging into an eastern terrace, just trying to find a safe place to shelter. Then came a sound no one expected, the sharp clink of a hoe hitting metal. When the soil slid away, the villagers found themselves staring at bronze. One piece after another emerged. By sheer luck, they'd stumbled onto a Western Zhou tomb belonging to the nobility of the ancient Wei state. More than 20 ritual bronzes, Ding, Gui, Jie, and more rose from the mud. And among them was the vessel that would later become famous, the Kang Hou Gui. When archaeologists examined the shapes, the patterns, and, most importantly, the inscription, they confirmed that this was an elite burial from the early Western Zhou. The discovery was huge. The Gui's inscription offered rare, physical evidence of Zhou political institutions and matched what classical texts had passed down. In other words, it wasn't just a relic, it was proof. But the 1930s were a terrible time for cultural heritage. China was caught between invasion, civil war, and widespread poverty. There was little protection for ancient artifacts and looting was rampant. So the moment these bronzes were unearthed, dealers rushed in. Among them were William C. White, a Canadian missionary who happened to be advising the Henan government, and CTLU, the legendary Paris-based art dealer known for sourcing Chinese antiques for Western collectors. And from that moment, the fate of the Kang Hou Gui would no longer be in China. The journey of the Kang Hou Gui is a textbook example of how countless Chinese artifacts were lost in modern times. Not long after the villagers uncovered the bronzes, they were quietly smuggled out and sent to Shanghai. At that time, the biggest hotspot for the antiquities trade in China, in Shanghai. Dealers repackaged these treasures as Oriental art, polishing their stories and tailoring them to Western collectors' tastes. Through CTLU's global network, the bronzes spread across the world. The Kang Hou Gui eventually landed in the hands of British collector George Eumorphopoulos, and in 1936 it made its way into the British Museum. Out of the at least 24 major bronzes unearthed in Xin, only 5 have ever made it back to China, but behind those numbers is something deeper. A break in cultural memory. Each piece lost overseas is like a prodigal son, carrying the DNA of Chinese civilization, yet forced to tell its story on foreign soil. To understand the true value of the Kang Hou Gui, you have to look inside it literally. Hidden on the inner wall is a 24-character inscription. Cast in early Western Zhou metal script, it has stayed untouched for more than 3,000 years. It's not just writing, it's an original historical record. When you look closely, the script itself tells a story. Some characters still resemble oracle bone pictographs, while others show the more structured style of bronze inscriptions. Every character is like a key that unlocks a piece of early Zhou history. And the text begins with a bang. The king came to attack the Shang settlement. This king is King Cheng, son of the legendary King Wu, and this Shang settlement wasn't just any town. It refers to a major uprising led by Shang loyalists and three powerful Zhou princes, Guan, Cai, and Hua. These few characters point directly to the rebellion of the three overseers, a crisis far more dangerous than later generations imagined. It wasn't just a political squabble, it was a moment when the entire Zhou dynasty nearly collapsed. After the rebellion was crushed, the Zhou leadership faced a huge question. How do you stabilize and govern the vast territories of the East? The inscription gives the answer. Kang Hou was in Fifofted Wei. Kang Hou, originally Prince Feng, younger brother of King Wu, was sent to the old Shang heartland to establish the state of Wei. From then on, he became known as Wei Kangshu, one of the major founding lords of the Zhou feudal system. The inscription may look short and calm on the surface, but behind those 24 characters is an entire world, one born through war, rebellion, and the forging of a new dynasty. Now, let's talk about the protagonist behind the Kang Hou Gui's inscription, Mo Situ Yi. His title, Situ, meant he oversaw land and labor, the lifeblood of any early state. That also meant he controlled manpower and supplies, giving him real power when war broke out. Yi personally witnessed the campaign, the victory and the involvement of Kang Hou, and afterward he cast this Gui to honor his achievements and pay tribute to his ancestors. To appreciate what he created, you need to know how advanced Western Zhou bronze casting really was. The process was cutting edge for its time. First, craftsmen made clay piece, molds, an outer mold for the vessel, S-shape, and an inner core to form the cavity. On that inner core, they carved the inscription in reverse, perfectly mirrored. One mistake, and the characters would come out distorted. Then came the alloy, copper, tin, and lead, heated to over 1,000 degrees Celsius. Timing mattered. Temperature mattered. Everything had to be perfect. The molten bronze was poured in one continuous, flawless pour. A single leak or hesitation, and the piece was ruined. When the metal cooled, the mold was broken open, revealing the newly cast vessel, what ancient people called lucky metal. But the Gui wasn't just a work of art. Under the Western Zhou belief that the state is built on ritual and war, a vessel like this was used in the ancestral temple. It held millet offerings for the family's forebears. Through these rites, he was reporting his achievements to both the gods and to society. He was securing his family as status and carving out his place in the new political order. And that's why those 24 characters inside the vessel matter so much. They are not only a historical record, they are Mo Situ Yi's RS, some to heaven, cast in bronze for eternity. To understand the line, the king came to attack the Shang settlement. We need to rewind to 1046 BCE. After the Zhou victory at the Battle of Muye, King Wu faced a massive problem. How do you govern the entire eastern region, a land still emotionally loyal to the fallen Shang dynasty? His solution was bold. He placed the last Shang prince, Wu Zhang, back in the old Shang capital of Yin, but he didn't leave him alone. King Wu stationed his own three brothers, Guan, Cai, and Hua, around him as supervisors. These were the famous three overseers, but then everything changed. King Wu died young, power shifted to the regent, the Duke of Zhou, and jealousy flared. Suddenly, a rumor spread through the east. The Duke of Zhou plans to harm the young king. That rumor became the spark. The three overseers turned against the Zhou court and allied with Wu Zhang. Powerful states in the east, Shu, Yan, Pugu, and others, joined the rebellion. Almost half the realm went up in flames. This became the rebellion of the three overseers, the greatest crisis the young Zhou dynasty ever faced. A combination of internal betrayal and external revenge threatened to wipe out the dynasty barely years after it was founded. The Duke of Zhou didn't hesitate. He led a punitive campaign to the east, what historians call the Eastern Expedition. For 3 brutal years, Zhou forces fought rebel leaders. In the end, the ringleaders were either executed or exiled, and Wu Zhang was killed. The Zhou army took control of the stubborn states, bringing order through force. Then came the rebuilding. To stabilize the east, loyal relatives and trusted vassals were enfeoffed across the newly conquered territories. Among them was Kang Hou, the youngest brother of King Wu. He was given the heartland of the old Shang dynasty as the new state of Wei, taking the title Wei Kangshu, a living bulwark protecting the Zhou realm. And this is where the Kang Hou Gui comes in. This vessel is more than bronze. It's a physical warrant, both a certificate of appointment and a medal of honor. From the ashes of the Shang dynasty rose Wei, and with it, the eastern territories were welded into the Zhou political order. Compared to Sima Qian's brief line, he enfeoffed Kang Shu as Lord of Wei among the remaining Shang people. The Kang Hou Gui tells the story straight from the source. Its 5-character inscription, Kang Hou was enfeoffed at Wei, is primary evidence, not just a historian's summary, and the opening phrase, "The king came to attack," confirms that King Cheng himself, not just the Duke of Zhou, was the sovereign finally settling debates over regency that lasted thousands of years. The Gui is also a genealogical cornerstone. Kang Shu's descendants took Kang as their surname, making this vessel the first family record for millions of Kangs around the world. And the craftsmanship. Modern X-rays reveal mold seams and internal supports, proof of the Western Zhou's mastery of piece. Mold bronze casting. In one remarkable object, history, lineage, and technology converge. The Kang Hou Gui isn't just a vessel, it's a civilizational genome carrier, carrying the DNA of an entire dynasty. The Kang Hou Gui is more than a bronze vessel. It's a symbol of the fate of millions of displaced artifacts. UNESCO estimates that 1.64 million Chinese objects now reside in over 200 museums across 47 countries. Just the tip of the iceberg. The British Museum holds 23,000, the Louvre 30,000, and in Japan, collections number in the hundreds of thousands. Each object is a shard of memory, scattered far from home. Look closely at the Gui's Taudi masks, cloud, and thunder scrolls and weathered inscriptions. And you're not just seeing bronze, you're seeing the bloodline of a civilization. This vessel witnessed Zhou feudalism, dynastic wars, the floods of 1931, and exile at home. It was testimony abroad. It becomes a question mark about ownership, dignity, and who has the right to tell its story. 3,000 years later, the ancient capital of Wei lies buried, but the story of the Kang Hou Gui has awakened anew. From these 24 characters, a question echoes across time. Where should displaced artifacts belong? Are they shared human heritage? Or should they return to the soil that birthed them? The answer perhaps is up to every one of us, each viewer, reflecting on how civilization itself is transmitted across time and space.